What's up, folks? Welcome to Wasted Space. Welcome to update 1.150. Figured we'd go straight in live and actually see what this was all about, because, hey, supposedly fixed lighting and the new physics-based render, it's kind of exciting, so yeah, let's take a peek. And the first thing you'll notice is what we've got standing in front of us here, which is looking pretty damn cool already. Gone is the funky atmosphere, and in is some kind of gorgeous halo. Kind of reflecting quite nicely off the Space Engineer as well. Which I guess itself has the first pass, so first thing to look at, how does this fella look? Certainly got a bit more of a shine to him than he used to. Yeah, he's looking pretty sexy. What I'll also point out, before we go any further, is my FPS in here. They do all these changes and then they don't mention stuff, so if you notice, if you press Shift F11, the old controls for going through and finding all this information, there's loads of stuff in there now, including the fact that my FPS is like 18, 20, so there's definitely been a bit of a performance hit from this so far, but partly that's my own fault, because partly I wanted to set up an area that I knew looked awful with the old lighting as like a prime test bed. Where can we go? What can we look around that's going to demonstrate the new lighting for us, and also perhaps have a bunch of different stuff in it that might demonstrate the physics-based render at the same time. So basically the fact that the gravity generator is now just a little bit more shiny than it was before. But before we do that, and before we go anywhere in this ship here, which some of you guys will have seen bits of, it's an ongoing project of mine that is fairly sizable, which is probably contributing to the poor performance. But before we do that, I figured I'd show you a very quick recording of what this looked like prior to the changes. So this ship, a quick walk around some of the important areas of the interior before they introduce this, and then we can get like a proper apples to apples comparison. The other thing I'm going to throw out there, if you guys have had any trouble getting this game to run, actually update with this patch, it'll tell you all of your save games are out of the wrong version. That's because they've changed the branches in Steam betas, so where you used to be playing development branch, you're now actually playing develop branch, and you need to go in there and reselect it in order for it to download properly. Bit of a mistake, hopefully they fix that, but as it currently stands, that's the only way to get your old saves to load. Anyway, let's just load up quickly this little video here, which is taken from the inside of this ship about an hour ago. So this is the main central corridor with everyone's favourite up-to-date lighting, except this is what it looked like, as I said, a couple of hours ago. So this is the disappointing lighting where there was no real shadows, no real depth to any of the lighting. Everything looks really flat and there's just this haze. And while you get a little bit of shadows like you've got up on the top there, in reality, most of it's pretty disappointing, especially this room, which is like, there's no lights in this room. Why is it this bright? And it never used to be. As you guys know, we had a few mods that kind of helped fix some of these issues more recently and helped bring it back to being a bit darker. So this place, especially down here in the corner with these oxygen generators, that looked, it was all green lighting. That light's bright green, by the way. You can't tell, but that lighting is all bright green. And it was all in dark shadows, and you could just about see that there were things there. So, as a bit of a comparison, let's just sort of continue the walk. We've got a bunch of areas downstairs. Again, it's just really open and kind of flat lighting. And then finally, this room, which used to be one of my pride and joys, but wasn't for such a long time. So, there you go. You've seen a bit of what it was like a couple of hours ago. Let's have a look at how much they've actually fixed. So, same ship, worse FPS, but we're going to go for a quick, let's fly over. And hey guys in chat, how you doing? So, definitely immediately noticing something here, and one of those things is, wow, the FPS has dropped a fair bit. However, this stuff is all looking pretty sexy. It looks sexier from further away, but there's like a depth to it that never used to be there. And this corridor's actually, it's kind of dark, guys. It's not that dark. I was talking to Zoc a bit about this prior to starting this off, and yeah, this is only phase 1, really, of the whole darkness thing. And it sounds like the end goal is for this to be something that the player can actually have some control over. So rather than have to go, okay, we want it, it's this dark, deal with it, we might actually be able to get a level of control over that eventually. Now, how about this room? How are we looking? Eesh, it's not bad. I think I'm noticing the renderer more than anything else because the objects themselves have got a bit of shading to them. You know, gone are those super duper flat textures. How about my green lights? There's definitely more green. You kind of get an idea of what I was talking about. That looks far more dynamic, far more interesting than it did before. I can't say that... Do you remember all those super duper shiny shots we got shown of how this was going to look once it arrived? I can't say it's looking that super duper shiny in comparison to what I expected. Let's find something that should be super shiny and see how that looks. It's got to be something like... Some of these are really... No, they're all untextured. Now, that might be an issue. Is that an issue? How many of the mods end up untextured because of this? How about Azimuth? Alright, so Azimuth's alright. Actually, that's done a good job, because that's always one of those really big concerns when they do a change like this. How well does it reflect on existing mods? Is it going to break them all, or is it just going to update alongside them? And that's looking pretty sexy indeed. What else we got? How about everyone's very important? Where are our... Colt, where have you gone? Surely we've got Colt. We don't have Colt. That is a massive letdown. Alright, something from Sectarm then. He makes some sexy stuff. Oh dear. Oh dear. Does this mean that Azimuth's done some work to update it in advance and Sectarm hasn't? Okay, this is becoming more of a thing. How about Shower Corp? These catwalks are sexy as hell, and they are also untextured. And they were textured yesterday. I was using them for the Guns of Icarus ship. So it looks like a large number of our mods might need some creators to do a bit of updating, or potentially a lot of updating. Have we got anything else? Oh yeah, of course. I'll fix. It annoys me still that you have to press R to change in the build menu. Just let me drag them out. Oh no, the guns all need retexturing. So that's what it was. It was Azimuth's been like kind of ahead of the game and got stuff redone, and everyone else is gonna need to go through and redo all the models. No, that's a bit of a sad outcome. Okay. How about the end room? How sexy are you down here? It is nice and dark. Let's not overlook that. It is nice and dark, and that's certainly a lot better than it was like in its previous iteration. Where is it? So we've gone from that to that. That's not bad. I will give them something for that. That is not bad. I'm not in quite the right place. Let's go there. That's definitely an improvement. Let's not deny that. Now, it has certainly got a bit of a performance hit, but that might be partly because of the size of the blooming ship we're on. So, why don't we quickly nip down... I don't even really know my way around my own ship that well, but down here there's some corridors that are supposed to be properly dark. So, again, we've got this kind of... It's definitely darker. There's a load of nice, like, shadows around the edges of objects and so on, in the corners that feel really, like, kind of authentic. It's got much more depth to the image. But then the actual areas that should be kind of dark aren't that dark. And is this... What's happening here? How are they just... I hope they're just painted. Otherwise, that means there's somehow... Oh, okay, they are just painted black. Alright. I was worried there for a second that somehow they've managed to detexture their own models, which would be impressive, but hey. Yeah, so these sort of areas that should be dark are not that dark, and you've still got a bit of the old light bleed happening, which isn't great. It'd be nice if we could ditch that, but that's fine, that's fine. This is one demonstration. Let's jump in here and get rid of the lump that is the whale and see how the performance goes. See how we sit without this huge thing sitting there. Okay, so like this, we have jumped up to 72 FPS. Planet's certainly looking sexy. Let's also have a quick peek at what it looks like as the sun moves around. Oh, you've changed these things. There it is. Oops. So we can now have a bit of a look and see how it renders things in. Again, you can see a bit of the action from the PBR on the... Look at that lake shine and glimmer. That wasn't there before, I don't think. That's a bit more than we've had. And I would also argue that's a bit more of a smooth transition than we normally get. Not too shabby. Now, a lot of this stuff is sort of just improving the lighting overall. But they've also done a few other things that might enable at least some people to turn on some extra options, because we apparently now have NVIDIA HBAO. Now, is this on by default? Is this here as an option? I'm not seeing anything jump out here. Normally I would expect it to be like connected to anisotropic filtering or so on. We're not gonna. So do we not have control over that? It's just in. It's in the added HBAO from NVIDIA. Yeah. Don't know what that's all about. Now, another question would be, what does it look like? We've got static decals now. So I think this is something that Ven had done with his enhanced... No, it's not enhanced exploration. Losing the plot with his Space Engineer's defense kit. Even the blocks are looking quite sexy. What does heavy armor look like? Shiny heavy armor? Dull heavy armor. Dull heavy armor. A little bit of shine to it, but... So we should now be able to like make interesting looking decals on here and actually have some sort of impact to it. Do we have any interesting weapons? Oh look, a rocket launcher. Not Ven's this time. Nice to spread the love a little bit. A battle rifle, and then let's grab out one of Keenan's ones as well and see sort of what effects we have and how this sort of all looks. That's not looking bad, to be fair. They've even got a bit of depth to them again. Not sure about the little black particle effects, but okay. And let's something a bit bigger. Not seeing it. Okay, how about something a bit bigger again? Oh, actually, I can't do that because that one's going to fall into pieces. God, it's the blueprint screen that everyone hates. Don't hate me too hard for the blueprint screen, guys. I will sort it out one day. Oh, though, not this day. I just need something with a rocket on it. And nothing is presenting itself. Screw it. How to slap together a ship in 2 seconds. Not like that. And my rocket launcher. Where have you gone? Best looking ship ever. The world is spongy. Spongy. So sim speed is at 0.7. FPS is at 121. So world is spongy, but it's nothing to do with FPS now. It's sim speed drops. Now there is a reason for that I will eventually show you guys, but for now I want to test whether or not these decals actually have anything to them. Do they look any good? There you go. This is the best looking ship you've ever seen. Look at that puppy. It's amazing. Yeah. I'm not really convinced by that. Unless they're just talking about the bullet markers and so on. Yeah. Alright, let's go down and have a look around the planet, because that should give us some other results. See what things are like down here. So we've got the new sort of atmosphere effects, which means that hopefully things look a little bit... Yeah, so you can't see the star field quite so heavily from down on the ground anymore, which is good. It was a bit unrealistic in the middle of the day, and all of a sudden you can look up and it's like, oh look, all of these stars. Perhaps it's a bit too much still. looking pretty, running acceptable. I can't say I'm seeing as much effect from the PBR as I was really expecting to. Looking all super shiny. Good to know that the Wings mod is one that has been updated, so Digi stuff seems to be compatible. And looking sexy. That's way more detailed than it was before. Pretty nice. I would say actually that Digi's wings are the sexiest looking thing on there. The conveyors look pretty good. And the round stuff looks pretty good. Still not that super shiny gravity generator that they showed us, but it's not looking bad at all. And I am so high up that this thing barely flies. Or is it just run? Sim speed's down to 0.62 again. There's a bit of a haze over everything too. You notice that all of this stuff has kind of got this sort of slight glow effect around it. It's almost certainly the bloom they were talking about, but I don't know about that. Maybe a little too much? A little too... Especially on, like, the controls in here. They should be crisp and sharp, otherwise why would you look at them? And wouldn't it be nice if we could actually look at them? One day, maybe. I suppose it's probably time I showed you guys why we're here and everything's got a slow sim speed at all. Because there were a few places in a certain series that kind of were known to be a bit ruined by the state of the lighting. So I figured, why not go and have a look around a place we know and see whether that's any better? Although don't expect there to be anything in the way of stuff that you haven't seen elsewhere. I'm just intrigued to see what this place looks like now it's maybe a bit fixed. Certainly looking a bit fixed as we come down. Still got that underground glow to it though, hasn't it? Yeah. That's not as much as I'd hoped. Oh, wow. Look at how good the rock looks with the torchlight on it. That is far better. The torchlight seems pretty nice. We've got more mods down here that don't have textures. Ow. Ah, the poor general. Is that what a broken spotlight looks like now? Or is that just what the model has changed to? Surely that used to be glass. What on earth? Hey, Drewy. Spotlight is available for small ship. That's okay. So interesting. So the front of the spotlight model looks quite different to what it used to look like. It's going to be hard to reference what it used to look like, but it certainly seems quite different to the old one. Looks a lot more detailed than the old one as well. Let's have a look at the gyro. Yeah, gyro's similar, but I like how the sides of that look. The spotlight always looked a bit weird in my mind, but that's looking a lot more sharp and purposeful. Little cooling vents and the like. Anyway, my friend, we shall move on. I'll leave you here. So, we have some long... Drewy, maybe you can answer. So, I noticed that some mods seem to be not updated and having texture issues, and some mods are absolutely fine. Is there like a reason for why some are and some aren't? Yep, that was great fun as well. I mean, this is super duper dark and spooky, but not quite for the reasoning we wanted. Unfortunately, it looks like Sectan is one that perhaps hasn't updated something that needed to be updated or whatever, because yeah, while that's a very long and spooky corridor, it was not supposed to be long and spooky like this. But then you get some mods that are working fine, like the one that's using on that text panel, on that LCD panel, sorry. Okay, a bit more of a... This would have given it a certain vibe. Maybe we need to find a way of turning all the textures off. You'd have been spooked out a bit. So let's go and see if we can find an area that demonstrates. And then there you go. That's better. I think the floor, even the floor in here is unfortunately one that isn't, but you start to get an idea once you go into an open area, especially with the light off. That's quite cool. Screw it. I'm going to Spectator Flyback. Actually, what's it look like from outside these days? Quite a mess still. Let's get back in here. And yeah, wherever there's actual lights involved, it looks great. The only bit that's not quite right is how dark it is yet. There's still a bit of sort of ambient lighting that, I don't know, it just feels a little bit too much. But again, I mentioned this earlier on in the stream that actually there was a bit of a reason for that, and so consider it pass one, if you know what I mean, of the darker lighting rather than the final variant. I am very pleased with how the new spotlights are actually casting stuff, and you can even see, is that a little spot of, oh, it is. I'm not entirely sure why it's where it is, but it does look pretty cool. What about these ones over here? Just noticing that. This could be lights on the other side, perhaps, shining through slightly, maybe. It'll be interesting if it is, because if it is, that means they've actually technically fixed something a bit with interior lights, because a lot of these lights used to project from the wrong place, essentially. They had an aura that project. I can't get inside this thing. I'm going to have to break it down. Break it down! Like, they'd sort of project an aura in front of them because they weren't technically a light source themselves. Like, the light source wasn't coming from the light itself. So I wonder if this means that the light source has actually been shifted back to be inside the light. Although, saying that, I can't find anything obvious in here that could be causing that in particular. Again, there's another mod that works and looks great with the PBR versus the other ones which were mysteriously blank. You can make it darker. Okay. That's pretty cool. Let's go and find it out then, because it'll be there and relatively obvious, I imagine. Environment, light and shadows, perhaps. That'll be in one of them. They broke rotors and pistons again. I'm not convinced, Dale. Dale is giving us suggestions in chat. We'll have to go and try that, but these like, I think it's called specular highlighting. It looks great. I just have no idea where it's coming from. It seems to be like coming through blocks and so on. Anyway, the point of coming down here, and then when you come outside again, it starts to look great. As soon as you get cargo containers in particular, like as soon as you get lots of angles and so on in one area, really does start to come together a bit more. Yeah, I can't be bothered to go and find out how to open that. Get out of my. Didn't like me doing that. Wow, okay. This is what I expected to look pretty cool. Oh, wow, okay. This is, yeah. Well then, I thought, hang on a second, shouldn't it be spinning? Okay then. There was a thing in here. You guys will probably remember it. It spun around in the series. 4 big, like, upright light panels that were just spinning. I don't know when it blew up, but it did. I think I found the cause of our sim speed drops as well, perhaps. How are we looking now? It's still 0.6. It's still quite low. You can call me okay, and finally, the control room. It's weird how it's had a noticeable effect on actually like the colours of some of the palette in Space Engineers. Like these are just painted black. Saying that, hang on a second. what's going on here? For some reason, are they somehow special control stations? Or do I just have to... I don't think they're anything special. Let's get Grinder out on one of the ones up here and see if... Maybe you're just going to have to replace a few models sometimes to get it to sort of update correctly. Okay, so all the used and refurbished equipment mod is kind of suffering a little bit as well. Tools look good, thinking about it. Yeah, Drill and the character suits are definitely looking a lot better than they were. Okay, so this world is actually running badly enough. I think I'm going to have to reload it. Game, there's a bit of a cool looking but slightly mysterious light source. Is it coming from you? It was coming from that. Okay, so actually, so some of these down the corridor, these are lights. They're just not working very well because that mod's not been updated. So some of these make more sense. But I don't think the walls were in use out the front. Let me go. I'm going to go and check. I'm intrigued now. Because obviously I don't want to be highlighting things that are fine. So these are going to be sectand lights, aren't they? So these are these things. It's giving light off. Can we find a reason for these little spots? Yes, we can. There we go. So these are, again, it's mods with things that have not quite aligned right. Again, that's the same. So what does an interior light look like in comparison? Because this kind of sort of ties in with what I was saying earlier with how where the light was actually projected from used to not be the light itself. It used to be in front of the light. Whereas now, it looks much more like... Ooh, does this mean interior lights now do shadows as well? That could be cool. Very hard to figure that out easily. Let's stick something in the way that's got holes through it and see whether we get some funky lighting effects. Still a bit more of a diffuse glow, whereas if we were to put a spotlight down there, I think we'd get much more of an effect from it. There you are. You can just about see the beams, so you need to move it a bit further away if you want it to have any real effect, but yeah, you kind of see what I mean with that. Okay, all in all, it's not looking too bad, but it is running so badly, I think we might want a bit of a live stress test. What do you reckon of that, game? What do you reckon of that one? Either it lives and removes the objects when everything's fine, or... oh, the remainder of the general. Goodbye. That's better. Okay, so now we are up to 0.75 sim speed. Let's go and visit someone else that we know. Oh yeah, that's where we parked the Warden, so that's not helpful. Need to go and find the base. Can we see her from space? It's been such a long time, I can't remember which direction it was in. It's not you. Planets are certainly looking way nicer with the sort of transparent atmosphere and a much more of an idea of what's kind of going on depth-wise. Yeah, I reckon there's quite a lot of potential there for some sexy new recording scenes with this sort of lighting. Now, can we... This is another thing that I hope is kind of fix and is lighting related, so who knows, maybe, maybe not. What am I doing? Environment and atmosphere. Yeah, sun speed. Time for you to go nice and fast. Because what we used to have is a lot of sort of quite hard shadow popping as things moved around, and unfortunately it looks like that's not something that's part of this update. It's hard to tell because they were talking about some shadow improvements, but not that one. Although if you've not done it, it does look quite cool watching the sun rapidly circle the Earth. Where is it? There you go. Cool. Let's put that back up to something more sensible. What else can we test in this? We got grass rendering and trees. So I have my grass render distance turned up nice and high. And once it's finished dealing with the fact that I just dived in at some crazy speed, how do the trees and the grass look? It's a bit better. It's hard to really tell without a reference point right alongside it. What you did use... you see, that was something again that I was kind of hoping... The sort of the quite dramatic pop-in on the trees you can get. Some reason it seems to specifically be bad with the darker coloured ones. You don't notice it so badly with the snow-coloured ones. But with these dark-coloured ones, there's always like a distance where... Maybe it's just the ones you're not looking at. These ones now are not doing it. Interesting. Okay, and then finally, a bit of grass. The grass is coming in much nicer. Still got a bit of that flow across the environment. How's my settings for that? So that's 2,000 meters. Yeah. I think you'd need to have that really quite high to avoid it, and then trying to get a system that's capable of running that would be an interesting task. But it certainly comes in really smoothly, so that's a lot nicer than, say, the sort of slightly jarring tree pop-in. Visual damage improved when shooting glass. Now this is where I would really like to be stumbling across this base that I've been looking for and not succeeding in finding particularly well. It's not where the Warden is, that's all I know. It's not that one. I assume you guys know where I'm looking for. It's just to see so many of them look so similar. I feel like I should know my way around this planet by now as well. No, screw it. I can't find it. And I don't want to reload the map because you guys know that will take forever. So, I'm not sure whether there's any more tests that I can try. What do you guys chat reckon? Anything specific I can try out here? Tell you what I'll do. While I'm doing that, I'll reload the map and jump into a map that I know loads much faster and see what things look like from the latest creation. Because from the deck of that it always looked pretty cool. I can't use Space Master to find the grid, guys. I think you can probably work out why. The same reason I was keeping a lot of signals and so on off. Be clear, that is a map that still contains spoilers. You can speed it up, if you can improve it, TimYT, by slowing the sun down, but it doesn't completely fix it. There's always a bit. That's why all of the best time lapses I've done have always been pointing upwards, where you can't really see the shadows as they come by. Okay, so we are in a place on the world that never gets any real sun. Fair enough. I guess this must be the pole or something. Slightly unexpected. I don't think it ever used to do that, did it? Is the sun a bit closer now? go up and come into the sunlight and see how it looks. And the easiest way for me to do that is going to be to go in here and... No? Where are they? It's got a bit of a bloom to it, but I'm not seeing it so much. Don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining. Not in the slightest. This is more a case of, ooh, can I stay on the ship while it's flying around? That still seems to function. It's funny. From some angles it looks great, and then from some angles you get too far away and it kind of seems to drop out and you lose some of the impact a little bit. Like I'd say from back here, ooh, especially with whatever's going on with... Okay, so the armor ramps mod is also one of the ones that's no longer functioning, by the way, guys. Yeah, apologies, Sectown. I have missed what you're saying in chat. It tends to go by quite quickly. I was just trying to focus on actually testing out everything that was in the patch. So if I've missed anything, hit me up on like Twitter or Steam or something like that. Or just repeat it and I'll try and pick it up this time. I'm running out of things to test, guys. I think we've seen the majority of at least some of the lighting and cool stuff they've had to offer. It seems to be a bit of a shame that that seems to have come at the cost, at the moment at least, of a bit of performance. I do feel that it's not running quite as well as it was. Admittedly, I am on a very populated world, so maybe that's not quite as fair. And it's worth mentioning as well, the performance fixes that were mentioned were to do with memory leaks. They weren't necessarily to do with making everything run faster, it was to do with stopping it from slowing down hideously. And at the moment, FPS of 120, 121, it's not bad. The area in which I feel like sort of it's perhaps not quite as good is it still feels a bit more chunky looking around. Maybe I'm just a bit too fussy. But yes, it looks like the main things to take from this are PBR looks sexy. It's clearly a first pass, and I can't wait to see sort of as it gets a bit better. The lighting is probably the best of the improvements. It's certainly way better, and as Drewy has mentioned, you have the ability to actually control that lighting a bit, so if you want it darker than it is, you can get it darker than it is. The sad side so far seems to be that we have some issues going on with some, perhaps quite a lot of mods that clearly need some updating to come in and work. And then maybe, let's just do, there was one slight rotor issue. I'm going to see whether or not this thing therefore pastes in. The modded blocks that are missing was simply the name on the side. Okay, yeah, take out the airship. Okay, so... Oh, hang on, hang on. Hang on, she's suddenly dropping like a stone. She's killed herself. Either way, the point of this was the massive rotor engine on the back is still connected. So that doesn't look too bad on the rotor front. It's not the best test, but at the same time, that is a massive rotor on that thing. Let's get rid of the connector as well, just to be absolutely sure. So it's definitely the rotor that's holding it on there. And of course, it means that we can end in a lovely crash, as we should. I'm pretty excited, guys. It looks pretty sweet. I hope the mod guys get on it and don't get too frustrated by the fact that there's clearly going to be quite a lot of work needing to be done. It looks like it's for a pretty good cause. It's nice seeing stuff that should be shiny, shiny, and stuff that should be matte, matte, and it's just going to mean that you've got options and textures and so on you can play around with now. Like that matte texture we saw in Sectown's Corridors. I mean, while it wasn't intentional, it actually looked pretty damn cool. So, yeah, I'd say this is mostly positive again, and considering that it looks like the rotor is still holding on, we got to test this. Hang on. If the rotor has just survived an impact, that's not bad going. Okay, I think right. Now the rotor has broken. Yes, no? No, the rotor's still fine. Yeah, so that is not bad going. That's an advanced rotor holding a thruster on the back that crashed directly into the ground. Still hanging on. Still hanging on. There's this funny new particle effect that I don't remember being there before for when stuff hits the ground. All this sort of bits and bobs clicking up into the air, and that's cool as hell. Like the particle effect of hydrogen thrusters near the ground. That's pretty damn sexy. Like you're coming down in your big ship and you can have something like that sort of marking your landing. Hell yeah. I take it back. I'm excited again. Oh, I see, Sectan. Okay, I understand. So this is the problem at the moment with the whole split dev and stable versions, is that apparently there's no compatibility across those versions to some extent with some mods. Does that mean you'd have to completely remake them, Sectan, in order to sort of have one for each side? There's no sort of close range compatibility. Oh look, just in time. There's some wolves. Hello, Wolf. How goes? Rawr. That model's pretty good. Still a bit of a glowing tree issue, but the dags are quite cool. We're gonna have to hang on now and find out what Sectan has to say about this. It'd be good to get an answer, at least, why it is that some are updated and some aren't, and I don't know. It'd just be good to know. Yep, you need different mods for each branch, so there you go. That's why some at least are not updated and some are, and it's going to be down to the more, I don't know, it's just hard work, especially for someone that's got a huge number of mods like Sectan has to go through and update them all, I'm sure, but hopefully it is in there for a good reason and is being used appropriately, because I certainly, aside from being mauled by dogs, really quite like how this whole sort of landing environment here looks. You can imagine it in the next season of Group Survival. Shack comes down to land. It's going to be good. Well, thanks a lot for joining me, folks. I'm going to call it there because I think we've had a pretty good look at what there is to see with this new patch. There's a sort of mostly good vibe going down, I think. Obviously, it's going to be a disappointment for those mod creators, and a lot of hard work, but again, we just have to trust that it's for good reasons and that Keen are changing things that are going to help us out in the long run. So, thanks for joining me. Please hit the like button. Helps the stream out a huge amount. Means that people get to see what the deal is perhaps with the new lighting system, because obviously you saw bits and bobs of it in Keen's video itself, but it's always nice to actually go in and take a first-hand look and see what it all means. And as the sun rises, I'll say thanks a lot for watching, folks, and I will catch you next time, which will probably be, by the way, in about 3 hours for some Planet Nomads. It always helps if your stream software actually wakes up and lets you end the stream, of course. Cheers, guys. Thanks for coming. See you shortly.